I from a full career that really transcended pro wrestling and went for literally as long as it could to a career that I feel like was just starting to get off the ground. In all honesty, we lost Bray Wyatt on Thursday, and this really fucking hurts because he was only 36 years old. Um, way too young, just way too young. And honestly, it just sucks. It just really does. Um, as most people know, maybe they don't. Bray is Wyndham Rotunda, born May 23rd, 1987. Um, his grandfather was one of the Blackjacks. I think it was Blackjack Mulligan, right?
His yeah, well, no, Lance, is it Lancer?
Lanza? Blackjack Mulligan. No, yeah, it's Mulligan.
It's yeah, yeah, the son of Mike Rotunda, aka IRS,
And obviously his brother Bo Dallas. So
aka
a wrestling
who was
family.
actually Uncle Howdy. Yep. And yes, Bo Dallas was going to be revealed as Uncle Howdy. Let's get that out of the way right now.
So the guy came from a wrestling family from the very beginning. He started in the developmental territories from WWE in 2009 to 2010. Um, Starting off in Florida Championship Wrestling. So before we even get into his WWE career, the guy only ever started in WWE, and as we're going to go into his career, he only wrestled for WWE. Even when he got fired, he didn't go anywhere else. He didn't do other shows. He was only a WWE guy. No, Scooter?
Yep, he absolutely was. Um, I will say this. I'm not exactly sure how much confidence they had in him to begin with, based on the name they gave him uh, when we first came to see him. Uh, for those who don't know, uh, the name Rotunda uh, contains the word rotund, which is a polite way of saying heavy or fat.
Batman.
And why they decided to call him Husky Harris, I will. Well, I do know, but I don't want it to be true.
So we all knew after a stint on the Independents for Florida Championship, he would be featured on NXT, and not the NXT we know, the reality competition that was kind of like enough, but definitely more of a work. And we definitely don't talk a lot about this era of NXT. But ironically
Because,
enough, his pro was Cody Rhodes,
yep.
which is interesting. Um, and then in 2011, he would make his main roster debut as a part of the new Nexus with CM Punk as the leader. And whenever you put new in front of something, it's going to
Mm,
fail immediately, right?
yeah, the New Rockers, the New Midnight Express, uh, the New Rockers again, um, the the uh, the new the new Blackjacks, uh, the the new Street Profits. Oh wait, no.
The new Horde Business.
Uh, the new Miz, and, you know, yeah, that is the kiss of death, and not the Bianca kiss of death.
Kaliko, you remember this time of Husky Harris?
Yes, because it was the same group that got all defeated by John Cena in one night at SummerSlam.
Um, no, that was the previous Nexus.
Yeah,
That was
Nexus
the
One,
seven. Yeah, that was the 7-on-7 SummerSlam 20. That was
2010.
that's 2010. Yep.
This was the one that Randy Orton went through in like
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, you only had uh in the new one you had Husky Harris, Mason Ryan, aka Welsh Batista, um, uh, I think
Michael McGillicuddy.
Michael McGillicuddy, and I believe Titus.
What?
Titus O'Neil and Darren Young.
Yes, Titus, and Darren. Yeah, you're right. The new Nexus. My apologies.
Well,
Which was the CM Punk version, right?
yeah,
Yes.
2011 to 2012, he would go back to Florida Championship and adopted a new gimmick of a hockey mask wearing Axel Mulligan.
Mulligan, yeah. And the funny thing is that the look was kind of cool, but it was also a little bit Mad Max inspired. It was also, possibly some kid would say, maybe the Fiend drew a little bit of inspiration from that. But what I had heard is that it had a great response,
It
and
did.
that that was going to be what he was going to come up as. And then I believe an injury took him out until his return as the. Well, I don't know how many people have seen the movie Cape Fear with Robert De Niro and Richard. It's De Niro and Gere because the original had Robert Mitchum and I can't remember who else. Um, but the kind of Hawaiian shirt, the wife beater, the hat, that bit of southern drawl. It
It's
was, oh man,
it seemed like from 2009 to 2012, it really was the developmental of um, Bray Wyatt, where he was kind of finding himself, and we would have he finally tuned who he became. I think the most notable thing he did during this time was a feud with Richie Steamboat, who you don't get to, who you don't hear about too often.
oh, you still hear more about Ricky.
Yep. And to April of 2012, he became Bray Wyatt, and he was initially associated with Eli Cottonwood.
Yep,
The Wyatt family would have been a little bit different if Eli Cottonwood was um, in the Wyatt family, no?
Yes. Yes, it would.
Then, some time in NXT did him good. Um,
you know, ironically, his first uh, his first loss coming back from injury was to Bo Dallas, his brother.
Which makes sense. You're filling things out. You need somebody that you trust. I mean, he was his brother, so he did him. Luke Harper, Eric Rowan's debuted on July 8th episode of Raw, attacking Kane, which prompted the August 18th, 2013 SummerSlam match
The Ring
against
of Fire.
Kane. Ring of Fire.
The Ring of Fire. Yes.
I
Dave,
remember.
yeah, Scooter.
I remember that. I remember that day because I was admitted to the hospital that day, and for
How
two
was that bad?
for two consecutive SummerSlams, I was admitted to the hospital, literally.
And you
Some reason
wasn't
my jaw
competing.
had this. Yep. But the Ring of Fire match, basically, I think they safer a safer Inferno match.
Yes.
Sure, let's go with that.
The PG Inferno match.
PG, yeah, Inferno match. Um, but like, I
I
mean, what a
remember
way to
Johnny Cash came to the ring.
what a way to debut against one of the most respected names in pro wrestling, and his gimmick match, so to speak, and getting the W, even though it was a little wonky, if I'm being honest.
It was wonky, but the thing was is that he was already getting buzzed because I think here's the thing with Bray because I think he doesn't get credit for getting NXT popping off because keep in mind he once he got called up it popped off, but he was the guy that was like making it intriguing when they were on Hulu before they went to the network. So I don't think he gets a lot of credit for that.
Well, I will say this about the Ring of Fire match. That match is super memorable to me because I was on the floor for that match. I was in the arena, Staples Center. I was on floor level, and so when they slammed onto the mat and the flames went up, you could feel the flames on your face.
I
Yes, your face was like melting off. Yes,
Right, and
I
it was just a very memorable moment for me personally.
I thought you were going to say you were on the floor because you tripped
No,
and fell down.
no, I had floor tickets for that SummerSlam. Um, After that, he would go on to have one of maybe the most memorable feuds of the Wyatt family with the Shield. And that was some great shit, if I do say so myself. Um, from there, John Cena. And that's kind of where I feel things kind of dropped off for Bray when it came to, momentum. No?
Yeah, yeah. Things would uh, fizzle because yeah, the WrestleMania 30 match should have should have gone. Bray should have won. I think by not letting him get that big win, that kind of really did put a huge halt in the momentum they were picking up.
You're not wrong. And I don't feel like the character of Bray Wyatt really recovered until we got the Fiend.
Really? Because I mean, I get that because we've always had this discussion, the Cena effect, because he ended up doing it to Rusev at 31. But the difference I think between him and Rusev is that he already had an audience built, a cult like audience built, and when you look at Wyatt's WrestleMania resume, as in who he shared the ring with, it is nothing to scoff at. Because he may have lost the match, and yes, you can make the argument it lost its momentum, but based on the next few WrestleManias when we go over it, think of how much trust they had in him to be with these icons that he was with.
Cena, Undertaker, The Rock and Cena. Uh, then that a bit. I'm sorry, the abysmal match against Randy at 33 that had the Willy Wonka tunnel of death images on the ring that went nowhere. I'm sorry. And then 34. He the leaders of worlds.
Yeah.
Um, here's the thing, and I hate this, and I think it's a little bit unfair, but Bray Wyatt is in quite a few of the PWI's worst categories.
I believe the worst match of 2019, but we'll get to that when we
Uh,
get there.
the worst feud of 2016. Uh, worst worked match of multiple years. I Some of that was just judged unfairly, but I mean, yes, we did get right regular Bray Wyatt as WWE champion, even if it was only for a little more than a month.
Yeah. And I remember that Elimination Chamber 2017. I was in Phoenix at that time, and that place just flew off the roof, and it nation. It was like a mini Daniel Bryan, and then you couple that with him ended up tag teaming with Orton because the next several days I got to see him tag with Orton to face Luke Harper and John Cena. So I have a photo of Harper, Cena, Orton, and Harper all in the ring.
Wait, you
Which,
you just said Harper, Cena, Orton, and Harper?
oh, Wyatt, Jesus. I mean, two Harpers.
Two
He
Harper.
cloned himself. Two Harpers. So nice they had to clone him twice. But yeah, that was another thing. Because keep in mind that Wyatt family breakdown was a hell of a storyline. It didn't have the great payoff, but it was a captivating story. And then keep in mind he was part of one of the better captivating stories of the Daniel Bryan saga. So I mean,
But then that led
he's
to see
see
Wyatt. Wyatt made the best of what he was given. I think that is what we can say. As far as how it went, due to certain booking decisions,
Right.
I don't think Wyatt is to blame.
I don't feel like he's to blame completely. I mean, there's a lot of blame, but to go around. But like you said, like Kaliko said, the match at WrestleMania 33 with Orton.
30, 33.
I remember going into that going into that match, I was actually really excited for it because Orton and Wyatt had a really good thing going. And he burnt down Sister Abigail's house, and he was destroying the family, and he was destroying everything Bray loved. And at this time, where are we, like 2017? You're look
2016, so
Yes, 2017. It was that match was in 2017.
2017,
No, no,
yes,
20. Yes, 2017.
Yeah, 2017.
33.
There was not a lot of things that was exciting me about WWE at that time. There was not a lot to get excited
But,
about.
And
but
that's why I was gonna say because WrestleMania 33 on a whole was not like
it was the longest WrestleMania in history. It was over 7 hours.
yes I was there and
Yeah,
and 90% of it was Taker leaving
yeah.
and yeah
I,
so
I
yeah
was on the air from 5 p.m. to well after midnight.
yeah it was a
And,
long one
um, but the thing is, that Orton Wyatt match was less than 10 minutes.
yeah
I mean, it could.
Shane and AJ got longer.
And what they did in that 10 minutes was really, honestly terrible.
So but that is something where we give Wyatt that blame, but Wyatt wasn't going to be the guy to be like, oh, I'm going to stomp until I get my way.
But I mean, it's absolutely not his fault. I mean, you're set up for success. You're wrestling Randy Orton at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship. It just that whole they did the
Thing,
Pictionary on the mat.
the ring, the mat, yep,
Yeah,
and I
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
see it because no one knew what the hell was going on.
With
Yeah,
The Willy Wonka Tunnel of Death screen, and I was able to predict what bug they were going to have next every time.
well,
so I mean, yeah, he was in some shitters, but but he was the guy that just went with it. Like he
If,
wasn't gonna pull a Punk and be like, "Fuck it, I'm gone." You know what I
if,
mean?
if anyone's to blame, it's Randy, because look what happened 2 years later. 3 years later, I'm sorry. No, yeah, 3 years.
well,
4 years later, at 37, yeah, 37.
yeah. I mean, look at it this way. After this rivalry with Randy Orton, he went into a tag team with Matt Hardy, the Delitos of War,
The
which
leaders of world.
which was entertaining, and you get that little wink and nod because they were wrestling the B team, which was Bo Dallas. Um,
B team, go go go!
yeah, and there was even
And then the social outcasts.
Social outcast, yeah.
a promo with Bo Dallas as Bray Wyatt that I think broke Bray, that he broke kayfabe and started to laugh. So there
Didn't
was that.
didn't Bo have didn't Bo have like a fake like paunch stomach
Yeah,
belly?
and he had like he had a lantern, but like it was like a mini one.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So that's where he was at that time. But what we got out of that in 2019 was the Firefly Funhouse. And I have to admit, when they first started the Firefly Funhouse, I thought it was the Driscoll shits. I like, what the fuck did they do to Bray Wyatt? He was this demonic creature that destroyed everything, and now they made him Mr.
He,
Robinson.
he's Mr. Rogers, yeah.
well, no, he's Pee Wee Herman. Oh, he's Pee
Mixed with Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers, yeah.
And I mean,
And that, oh god, oh god, Paul Rubens. God damn it.
Yes, he's gone too. Yep,
yep.
Pee Wee Herman's gone.
But obviously they gave Bray the ball, and he ran with it because he had some very successful storytelling, and that ultimately led us to the Fiend. And I think to this day, the Fiend is what he is most known for. Agree or disagree, Kaliko?
It's 50-50. 50-50. But the fact that he got two characters over separately, and it's very rare that you see one guy known for like two totally different characters in wrestling. Like that's like Booker T getting GI Bro over.
And
So
see,
I mean,
get, getting two characters over while working two distinct personalities.
exactly, and that's why I think uh, there were several matches he should have won. I think he should have won 31. He should have won 30 because he was going to be that Undertaker heir, that otherworldly, demonic, spiritual heir, and he made it look cool and creepy and not cheesy in the way WWE wanted to portray it.
Then we have, he's getting this character over. It's really going with what everybody wants. It's fantastic. Then he wrestled Seth Rollins in a Hell in a Cell match. And arguably one of the worst matches and finishes in all of pro wrestling, I would say.
No.
Alright,
Have you seen Fiend Goldberg?
yes.
Thank you.
We're getting there. But it started with this the Hell in a Cell match where the Fiend was over. He was getting what he needed, and creative screwed it over. They screwed him over, and it started with this match. I don't know if they felt like, oh, they did him wrong, but he did win the Universal Championship um, a couple of weeks later at the Crown Jewel event, where he defeated Seth Rollins. You could argue he could have won it in the Hell in a Cell match, but Vince McMahon.
But it was a confusion time for them during that time. Because what I want to say, what this was 2019.
Yeah, October
So
2019.
this was them trying to carry Rollins after beating Brock, right?
Yeah,
So it was that it kind of should have meant something to beat Brock and have a reign, but they didn't think about the meteoric rise of the Fiend, so they were stuck.
and then in February of 2020, he lost the belt to Goldberg.
Yep,
It was his first loss as the Fiend ever, and it was like, yeah, that's it.
that's why I said, have you seen that one? I owe my drink, bitch. Which didn't make sense at all because, and I get what they were trying to do because remember 2020 they were trying to do Goldberg Reigns,
Right.
but then the world got put on hold
Yeah.
per se, and to me, I think this actually it was kind of like a blessing and a disguise because you could make the argument that during that pandemic WrestleMania, he had the best non-match in that WrestleMania.
I know people like the Firefly Funhouse match. I always hated that match. I did not like that match. But it is something that, will be polarizing, and people will talk about it on for that's for it, and some people that are against it. And obviously, I'm one of the people that's against it. Scooter, your stance? No.
I can just say he's with me. For the record, he's with me.
Yeah. Well, Scooter's with us, with you.
Yeah, he's
Um,
with me. He's with me on this. Because honestly, think about it. Like in a time where we didn't know what we were gonna get for WrestleMania, it that stuck out, right? The fact to be able to be creative during a time where no one really could trust each other, period, touching each other. You know what I mean?
right.
And I think that's the context I'm looking at it. I could see where how you could say it was bad or it wasn't your favorite, but I'm just thinking in the context of okay, people aren't even trying to touch each other at this point, and he made that like good shit, and he got the get back that he needed.
Now, after essentially murdering John Cena at WrestleMania, he went back into a feud with Braun Strowman, where they had a swamp match. Um, and then I believe and he went back to the Wyatt Swamp, cult leader thing. I believe, yeah, the Fiend defeated Strowman to win the Universal Championship at SummerSlam, which then in literally 1 week from that show, Roman Reigns came back, triple threat, Payback, and that was like over 1,000 days ago, and Roman Reigns is still that champion.
And
It's
yep,
we're 5 days out from 3 years.
Yeah,
yep. And keep in mind, this is the funny thing about wrestling. He was interviewed in 31, and one of the questions that was asked of him was like, "What do you think of Roman Reigns?" And he's like, "Roman Reigns has the tools, and Roman Reigns once he gets the belt, because he thought that he was going to be Brock." But he was like, once he gets the belt, he's gonna run through everybody and hold the belt for a very, very, very long time.
funny.
And look where we're living at in real time. In real time.
It wasn't
Well,
Brock, it was Bray.
But it was him. Yeah. So
No,
that was the only difference. But what came true was the fact that yep, he won the belt, and it's been
well,
damn near a college term.
well. Funny enough, uh, Roman actually, we're not going to be seeing uh, the blue Universal title anymore. It was given to Bray's family.
really.
Yep, Roman was backstage. I don't believe Roman was out on stage for the tribute uh, to Bray, but he gave it to who his second wife is, JoJo.
JoJo.
He had 2 kids with her. Had 2 kids from his previous wife as well. Guy had 36 more kids, but the Universal belt now that blue Universal belt is permanently retired. Um, that as well, and 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 Eric Rowan was out on stage with the WWE for the tribute.
So let's get
I
to what he did for after the SummerSlam match and losing to Roman Reigns. which led us to a return match against Randy Orton. This time, the Firefly Inferno match, which, you guys like the Firefly Funhouse? I love the Firefly Inferno match.
The, the Firefly Inferno match.
The one where Randy Orton literally set Bray Wyatt on fire.
Yes.
That wasn't. Was that an Inferno match though?
Yeah, it was an Inferno match at Fastlane.
Oh God.
Yes.
I
When he
remember.
burnt the Fiend and the Fiend came back at Mania to lose to Orton. Yes, yes. I remember
Yeah,
that whole thing.
In less than 10 minutes again.
Yes.
and another match that was a little wonky. I feel like there should have been a payoff because Alexa Bliss was destroyed.
Wrestling Randy Orton.
She was
Literally
the
wrestling.
Yeah, she was the main focal point of the match, and we never got a payoff of what that was and where it could have gone because he was released a couple of months later in July. And that brought us to last year, 2022, the QR codes. And
The era
now,
of the White Rabbit.
I know you love those QR codes, Scooter.
Oh yes. But we have to we have to we have to preface this with saying they started playing Jefferson Starship's White Rabbit at house shows. No, and nobody knew why. Uh, Keep in mind, this kind of was after Vince was on his way.
He was out.
He was out,
He was out.
and then the QR codes would happen. They'd be anywhere and everywhere. You know, they did everything from the QR codes to friggin' magic eye images, where you had to stare at the very center and slowly pull it back in hopes of maybe getting something, which usually ended up being a couple of letters that would go at the end of a URL. This was the brainchild of Triple H. Of wanting to give the fans more interaction, whether it led to anything or didn't. There was a chance that this was not gonna lead anywhere, but people started making the associations. White Rabbit, revel in what you are, and so forth. Uh, uh, Ryan and I were, whenever they were there, we were always working to, cut them out. I was always looking, using the inspect properties uh, ability of the web browser and looking to see because that's where they'll hide all that shit. And it 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 was a fun time to be a fan because we were being given this. Vince was out. People were coming back. The future looked so damn bright.
Then at Extreme Rules, October 8th, he returned as Uncle Howdy. And
No, he didn't return
yeah,
as Uncle Howdy.
yeah, he had the Uncle Howdy mask. He took it off. He blew out the lantern.
He came through the real forbidden door.
Yes, and Unfortunately, we're not going to get what everything meant. He after that he went into a rivalry with LA Knight. Um, that led to the Raw 30th anniversary show where he had a moment and a segment with the Undertaker. Um,
That was supposed to be a passing of the, which, as we learned, was a symbolic passing of the torch.
yeah, and would be the last time Undertaker and Bray Wyatt would share the ring together. So, in a lot of ways, it definitely was a moment for reasons we didn't know until right now. Um, that led to the Mountain Dew blackout match at
The pitch black
Pitch
match
Black
at the Royal
at Royal
Rumble,
Rumble.
which thank God those guys took a shower. Um,
I personally didn't think it was a bad match. It was more unique than anything I've seen before.
it it was, I mean, the I think a lot of fans kind of narked on it because it was literally a match to sell a product.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Um, and that really wasn't something we associated with Bray Wyatt. LA Knight, I mean, I can
Yeah.
understand that. The match in and of itself was not bad. I wish Bray would have been in the Rumble. Um, and while we have LA Knight on the brain, uh, last night on SmackDown, uh, LA Knight faced Finn Balor, two of Bray Wyatt's most uh, not necessarily storied opponents, but more infamous opponents faced each other, and LA Knight delivered a uh, truly great promo full of respect, and showcased uh, what Bray, in the short time he worked with him, what Bray had taught him. Uh, Not to mention, LA Knight could do a dead-on impression of the Miz.
Hmm.
You got to hear it. You got to watch it when you get a chance. But seeing LA Knight borrow Bray Wyatt's phrase, and I'll leave you with the closing line from his promo. A wise man once said to me, as he looks at the camera, "The next time you see me," he looks right into the camera, "run." And that sent a little bit of a shiver down my spine, because you wonder, everybody is paying their respects and tributes to Bray Wyatt, but I think one of the big things is, how do the people who interacted with him over the last, since his return, how do they incorporate what they've learned from him? And I think that's going to make for some very interesting character work, and definitely is going to establish a legacy.
After the Pitch Black match, it was rumored that Bobby Lashley would be wrestling Wyatt at WrestleMania 39.
Uh,
That obviously did not happen.
he was going to target whoever won the Lashley Lesnar match.
He was feuding
I
with
believe.
Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, yeah. But
And
it was yeah. That doesn't matter at this point.
yeah. Um kind of sucks that that was his last match. The Royal Rumble was. Um, like you said, he had besides the character, the wrestling, all that good stuff. You have to look at the human being. And when the wrestling world found out, about the passing of Bray Wyatt, wrestlers and fans alike, quickly said, one of the nicest guys. A friend, a brother, somebody that helped me through my career, somebody that took the time to be there and explain things and be a friend. So, besides being just, in a somewhat iconic character for pro wrestling, he
And a
was,
second generation star.
the human being was just as big.
And that's the thing is that when you're a second generation star,
Third generation,
third generation, which now makes him, aside from Bo and The Rock, the only other third generation superstars. Randy Orton,
Was it Orton? Yeah, Orton.
Orton, but as far as we know, Orton's career is done. Um, when you're a second or third generation superstar, there's some preconceived notions that that people expect, even if they've never seen you wrestle. Like you already have shoes to fill, even if you've never stepped into them before, and that is something Bray did with gusto and talent, and he did not make his bones, so to speak, on the backs of his last name.
oh yeah.
He made it all on his own. And that is the ultimate achievement for someone in that position. No, they we don't know him because he's the son of Mike Rotunda. No, we know him because he's motherfucking Bray Wyatt.
And, you know, we could talk about, well, you know what, Kaliko, you haven't said anything for a little bit. Could you say what your thoughts on Bray Wyatt and what we've been talking about?
I, I can put it a little bit more simple. When Bray's career always been like
Yes,
start and stop, right? And every time we would start, he would be on the rise, and then when it would stop, we would always go, "Oh, there's always tomorrow," right?
right,
In my mind, it just felt like, okay, there's always the next time. There's always the next time with him. There's always the next time with him. And now it finally hits that there is no more next time. And I think that to me is probably the most shocking thing I've like. This one hits hard for me
Yeah,
because he was only 3 years my junior.
yeah. 3 years mine too.
So it was just like, holy shit, like he's gone.
And
And
6 years
and that to
under the
me,
ropes too.
yeah, it just it hits a little different because he was young enough to where it questions your own mortality in a sense,
right.
right?
Yep.
And 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 that to me is the shocking part. his impact, regardless of whatever PWI, whatever, blah blah blah. To my knowledge, he's the only wrestler in which he died, and all of his profits from his merch is going straight to the family. That's what WWE announced.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
So that tells you the reverence that they had for him, regardless. And what one of the things that we as fans kind of get caught up in is like, oh, they're fucking with him, they're pushing him, and this is where sometimes we just kind of have to sit back and wait for shit to play out. Because the whole time everyone just thought he was fat and whatever the case may be. And this is something where he died from a complication that happened from COVID, and we're just now getting into the terms of that, the long term effects of people having COVID. So it really fucking sucks. I can't even lie, and I got to meet that guy in at 33 in that infamous match, but you could just tell he was just cool as a duck in water, man. He was just so chill and so laid back. And I, to me, the wins and losses never really mattered with his character. Because as you saw, when I saw that video, I shared the video of me on the floor at 32. And this is him losing to Taker and Cena back to back. And he popped out
So
with that lantern, and 100,000 people lit their cell phones up.
wait, 32 or 31?
32.
Uh, you
Yeah,
said
he lost
Taker and
Cena at 30 and Taker at
He
31.
lost to Cena at 30, lost to Taker at 31, and you would
okay.
think it was done. But he came out at 32, and
Yeah.
100,000 people had their fucking cell phones up.
Okay.
So that just showed you, and he didn't even wrestle the match.
No, he
So
didn't.
that tells you, like, the captivation that he could pull, the fact that he could make you pay attention.
And you say that, but the night after WrestleMania 32, they start moving them towards being a face group because then they go on to attack the League of Nations.
Yep.
Hmm.
So they saw something.
Well,
Yeah, they saw something.
um, say what you will about the character, and you could say a lot of things about Bray Wyatt. He's definitely has one of those careers of, what ifs. What if he won the match with John Cena? What if he won the match with Undertaker? What if there was better booking? And, you know, after all of that and everything, we could analyze that for hours on end of what could have went right, what could have been wrong, how his career went. At the end of the day, whether you liked him, disliked him, and I'm only talking about the character here. When he was on your TV, you watched, you were entertained, you enjoyed what he was doing. And, as a character, you have to as somebody that watches wrestling, any wrestling fan, you could appreciate that he was there for our entertainment, and when it did come time to entertain us, he did it. And to Kaliko's, did you meet Bray Wyatt, or you just you met him in person?
Yeah, at 33. 33.
I met
And he was
him.
just cool as a fan.
I met Bray in 2014 before the Ring of Fire match. Um, he was fantastic at that time. I had him sign my program when he was in NXT, and I believe Loki Kaval was the winner of that season, and he's on the page with him, and he crossed his face out. Um, and then I met him 2015 before the match with Undertaker, and he was still an incredible human being, as nice as can be. One of honestly very memorable appearances of people I've met. And I even had him sign my world championship belt. And if you didn't win a championship title, I usually don't have you sign it. He didn't win the WWE championship at that point. And I was like, I still want you to sign this because I know you're going to get it. And to actually see him win it at Elimination Chamber, that was somewhat of a bittersweet moment, I would say.
Same
It
here.
was. I
Oh,
was in the building, and that pop was nuts.
I mean,
But
not to put a damper on things, but that belt just got a whole lot more valuable.
um, as Scooter mentioned, there was a fantastic tribute show to Bray at on SmackDown yesterday. Eric Rowan was in attendance. I didn't even know that Alpha me and
Yeah.
Alpha me and
Uh,
Scooter was talking, and I didn't know that he was even in part of Impact. So
well, I think I think he was basically done. Could you know when something like this happens, it kind of makes the WWE take a look at certain talent and and the ones that have any connection to them. And
right.
I'm wondering if this could mean a reinvigoration for Eric Rowan and Bo Dallas.
It doesn't. It doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing. If when something like this happens, we just all come together and we
Yeah,
respect and we pay tribute. I mean, we've been talking the last hour and a half about people that have done great things for for us for the business of pro wrestling.
um,
So
I
it doesn't matter the legality and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna go
I
do this. I'm going to pay tribute to this man because he was
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. And uh, even though AEW had taped shows tonight, nothing in the record, nothing even in the graphics for Terry Funk or Bray Wyatt. So you know, I doubt that's done on purpose
Yeah,
though. But uh, I I I do want to share this one last thing before you decide it's time to move on after this. Somebody, when something like this happens, I'm usually going through the Squared Circle Reddit, and I'm looking at the reactions, and every other reaction is either who's cutting onions, I'm not crying, you're crying, why are there ninjas cutting onions, that last shot of the rocking chair under the spotlight got me. Um, One post brought really got my attention, and someone said at the end of the show they should blow the lantern out forever. And I had a response to that. because it, it it brought up something from my own personal uh, history. There's there's a concept in Judaism. I don't know if it's the same in other religions. I just know this one personally. The the term, the concept is called Ner Tamid, which literally means eternal light or eternal flame. My response was, I retort with, no, you don't turn it off forever. You let the flame blaze eternally. And sure enough, the last image of SmackDown with Bray Wyatt's, you know, shadow profile up on the Titantron, a lantern in the center of the ring that was lit, and it wasn't going out.
Now, Rotunda leaves behind a wife, um, two daughters from his first marriage, a son and a daughter from his current marriage with JoJo. So four children. Um, Maybe we'll see that Lantern get picked up by one of those children in the future. I believe Braun Strowman is actually the godfather
God,
to
yep,
Bray's daughter.
that is true.
So yeah, as everybody knows, Wyndham died August 24th, 2023, um, of a heart attack, which was exacerbated by a COVID-19 um,
It
diagnosis.
it's I'm unsure if, because I've heard it reported both ways, that he got COVID, he beat the COVID, and but still having it in his system is what caused the heart attack. I've heard that the heart attack is a completely separate issue altogether, but either way, the COVID
Yeah,
and the heart attack is still together. The fact that even though the pandemic is was declared over, the fact it's still
COVID's still a thing, despite if there's no pandemic or no a pandemic or not, COVID is still a thing that we have to deal with, and that people are still getting. Um,
Yes, and the problem is that we don't. It's going to be a long time before we even know the long-term ramifications of it. So, t- even though people think it's over, the people who got it could carry into the next generation. We don't know.
well,
I,
Bray
I
was.
had it.
Oh,
So
continue.
I don't know. I was just to say, I had it, and I was very fortunate to overcome it within 3 days. Some people are unfortunately don't have uh, don't have that
Yeah.
don't have that chance.
Wyndham
Right.
Wyndham was 36 years old, and
Yeah, man.
you have to you always have to wonder, what could have been, but what we're left with is a career nothing to sneeze at.
No, it wasn't. And honestly, I think uh, on a personal level, it, wrestling is probably the greatest fan base, second to none, when it comes to things like this. When I, you know, Usually you have polarizing figures here and there, but when it's a wrestler, we really don't care. And we just like embrace all the good times that we've had with them. And it didn't matter where he wrestled, who he wrestled for. And this is, to me, the best of us as wrestling fans, where we're second to none.
Oh, thoughts and prayers go out to the family. Now, we're going to reset for a moment. We're going to go into our ad, and we're going to come back to you with All In. We're going to be our interesting, weird, quirky selves like we always are. We're going to say dumb stuff. I'm going to get every name right on that card. Scooter will say something that I will say, will you stop it? And Kaliko will, I'm sure Kaliko will have a lot to say about this one.
Probably
So,
fuck around and get muted 88 times. I don't know.
we'll take a moment, reset, and you can hear a quick word from our sponsors.
Hey, folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show. Support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.